Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bootcamp, your streaming know-how place to go to learn more about streaming. I'm your host, Vic Sinise. Welcome to the show. We stream every month, on a Wednesday night at 7 p.m., and we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Kick, and that's about it. LinkedIn? Yeah, I said LinkedIn. Hey, so if you like us, be sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Always helps our algorithms a little bit. I have a special guest joining us again this month. My son Bill is going to be thinking about starting his own podcast, and that's what we're talking about today is podcasting. So let's bring Bill in. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dad. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you on the show. So you're thinking about starting your own podcast, is that right?
That is right. I think I'm just about ready to go. I've got the idea laid out. I've got some different streaming things that I've tried out, and yeah, I like to think I'm right at the cusp. So yeah, I think it's time for a little last minute advice.
All right, good. So we're going to go through the stages. I kind of like to call it, if you want to start a podcast, this is my how-to guide to getting started. And you can let me know where you're at on this journey. So I think the first thing you need to do if you're going to start a podcast, choose a topic and pick something that excites you, because it's a lot more fun to do something you want to do. So have you gotten a topic yet?
Yeah, well, as you know, I've recently published my second book, which is the book on that, B2B account management. And my plan is for my show to be the show on that, which will initially start off mirroring my book, giving us a flavor of the different pieces that are in the book, but then ultimately covering some other topics as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So again, I think you nailed it on the choose a topic, something that means something to you. And you don't know who the audience out there is going to be. You'll find that out as you start to develop it. But the best thing is to always pick something that you know you're kind of the expert on. The next step is to plan your format. So you got to decide, is this going to be an interview format? Are you going to have guests coming into your show? Just you telling a story, or panel discussions with a bunch of people coming in? Have you thought about your format, Bill?
Yeah, another good question. And yeah, I have. I think the first show at least is probably just going to be me talking, introducing the concept, talking a little bit about what the show is going to be. But once I get into maybe like the second show and beyond, I do want to start bringing in guests. The world of account management is vast, and there's a lot of things beyond just what I know that I'd like to share with my audience. So bringing in some of my colleagues, some of my friends, people that I've worked with over the years that have taught me a lot of different things. Would love to make it more of an interview format where I bring guests in who are maybe experts on different subtopics and make it a little more interactive. In some of the trial work that I've done, just talking to yourself, it's difficult. It's hard to get into a pattern. It's hard not to just talk really fast. So I think having some other people that I can have conversations with will help make it a little more exciting for one, but also help me, create a better pattern.
And I think you're able to go back and forth and kind of feed off each other. And, somebody will say something like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I'd like to add to that. Or, sometimes they'll feed off you. So I like the format where you have at least one other guest as a person to talk to. Again, you don't have to. You could certainly do these alone. So now I have 5 podcasts that I'm putting on right now, this being one of them. And this one has been kind of a solo job. I like to pre-record it most of the time just because it's more convenient. I don't have to be at a specific place at a specific time. And as you can see, I'm not even in my studio today. I'm traveling. So the nice thing about podcasting, you can do it anywhere. But I have others that I always have a guest because I need an expert who's probably at least as good at it or better than me. And it really pays off on some of these other shows. And some of the shows are, I don't even specialize. So sex education is one of ours. And I've got a specialist who hosts that show, and all I am is in the backdrop of it. So it does give you some options to have different things to do. And I like this format, as you can see what I set up here on the screen, where you've got 2 people set up side by side. They can kind of talk to each other. And you have the ability, if you want one person to be kind of the main person in the screen, that it works out. If you want to have it smaller, if you have multiple people, you can put them in a screen. But decide all that stuff, what your format's going to be. That's going to be huge. So good step 2. Seems like you're on the way. And you'll find out your show may change its format as you go along. You'll see what works best.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not set in stone. It's we're going to see where it goes.
So the next thing you need to think about is how you're going to produce this. Is it recorded? Is it edited? What software you're going to need? There's a lot of free stuff out there. There's stuff you pay for. StreamYard is the one that I use, and it's a cost. You have to invest into it. So what's your thoughts on what are you going to do?
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit offline, and I've tried a few different programs. Some of the free ones I've found either are really difficult to use. The interface isn't very seamless. It takes a lot of, I think, a really high learning curve to make those work. Some of the other ones where it's, a paid program but has a free version, the free version just gives you such limited access to tools. So I've really been leaning towards I know you use StreamYard, and I've gotten a little bit more familiar with it in some of the work we've done. So I just started a free trial of one of their paid programs to kind of get an idea of, does that give me the features that I'm missing from the free version, where I felt like I was a little too limited. So I'm leaning towards probably using StreamYard and probably using at least their first level paid version. Definitely an investment. It would be nice to be able to do it for free. But from the standpoint of having all of the features and not having to spend, weeks or months learning how to use it, not to mention knowing that I know someone who's kind of an expert that I can reach out to for help, that doesn't hurt at all either.
Well, the other thing is that's nice about using StreamYard is not only is it easy for you, it's easy for people that you bring on. I found that was the number one thing that drove me towards StreamYard, which runs on a browser-based system that anybody who came on was pretty much able to get on the system and log in and go through the routines. Where some of these other ones, they work, but they may be less money, but they're a little more difficult for especially somebody who's not tech savvy. Before the show came on, I just did my Euronurse program. That's why I'm wearing my shirt here. And the person who was on had like zero technology, even came on and said, "Can I come in early just to kind of figure out what I'm doing?" I'm like, "No problem." She says, "I have no technology background whatsoever, but with very little coaching, able to get on. We did a great show." So I think there's something to be said for sometimes paying for it. And there's ways to make money. I mean, you have a book, maybe it'll drive sales for your book. Maybe it won't. Maybe there'll be some way you can monetize it because people will want to do like I do, where I sell space for my website that people want to have access to their website from my website. So there's ways to pay for it.
Yeah, that's the hope, is that ultimately it will at least work out to be a cost neutral. And I think you nailed it with the simplicity of wanting to be able to have other guests on the show. I've seen from my experience as a guest here just how easy it is to get on. The host has a little bit of work to do, but a guest, it's as easy as clicking a web link and putting your name in and choosing your camera. I even figured out how to do a background. Really a simple program for the guest. And I think that's important because, you're asking somebody to come join you on a show and share their expertise. The last thing that you want is for them to have a high bar, to have to learn tools, learn how to use it. It's hard enough to make sure, do you have a camera? Do you have good lighting, a good microphone? That's asking a lot of some people. Now to get them to actually learn a program, that's almost asking too much.
Yeah. And you want to coach get your person who's coming on early and coach them on things like hair and makeup. We talk about that in one of our episodes, making sure that people look their best on screen. Sometimes you have to deal with, like today, I've got kind of limited space that I could do this in because I'm not in my studio. I've got limited lighting that I can use to try to get my lighting, but you make the best of whatever your environment is and try to still have a good show.
Yeah.
All right. So the next thing is hosting and distribution. So it's great to record a show and put together a show, but if nobody ever watches it or even knows how to find it, that's not going to go very far. So you have to spend that extra time in distributing it. And again, that's one of the places I think that I like StreamYard, because it's one of these that you click one area. When I go live, I hit the word live, it automatically sends me out to Facebook, automatically sends me out to X, automatically sends me out to LinkedIn, and now Kick. And they've even added TikTok if you're a TikToker. So that's to be kind of important. Have you thought about how you're going to distribute your show?
Yeah, well, again, that was one of the things that kind of pushed me towards StreamYard, was trying to figure that out with some of these other programs. They don't all intuitively interface. And yeah, I definitely want my show to be, available on YouTube. I think that's, to me, we're probably the biggest audience. For me, LinkedIn
Probably,
is another one that I think, would be a good place, because that's where I have most of my following from the account management side. Facebook, X, to a little bit lesser degree. I don't feel like those are going to be big markets for my topics. But yeah, I definitely want to have it where it automatically goes out. I'm probably going to do it in a recorded format. My ability to keep a schedule with a young family of committing to this time every week is tough. So pre-recording and then putting it out there. But it looks like StreamYard makes that just as easy as it makes streaming it immediately to an audience.
Yeah, that's another big advantage, being able to put your pre-recorded episodes together.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So recording it and then putting it out there is probably the way that I'll go. And yeah, I started working on some of those connections and, setting up a YouTube channel. I do have a YouTube channel, YouTube, / at the book on, or the show on that is now a live YouTube channel. So I do have that where I can stream things. I've set up like a page on Facebook for my book that I can stream directly to. So trying to kind of separate my personal profile from my, show profile within those platforms a little bit.
If people don't know, you can't set up a Facebook page for a business. Facebook has to be a personal page that you can have a group, a Facebook group, or a Facebook page.
Yeah. So it all runs through your personal profile.
Yeah, it's all hooked up to you. So
yes.
Yep.
So then I set up an Instagram as well for my author profile. So I've got all those kind of like places set up, and then just need a way to get it there. And the other thing that I've seen that I'd like to do with it is make it both a video and podcast. So, and it looked like StreamYard made that as well.
Yeah, I think the audio audience is definitely one you don't want to miss out on. And that's things like Apple Podcasts. Amazon has their audio podcasting app. And I use Spotify, which again, now we talk about ease. Spotify will send it to all those other areas. It's something called RSS, or Real Simple Syndication is what it stands for. And basically you're syndicating yourself with a very simple link. And it's all these things you want to, do your due diligence, study up on how to do this. As you said, you set up your page on YouTube. You have to have your own YouTube account. You have to have a YouTube set up specifically for what you're going to be podcasting too.
Yes.
And you want to then let YouTube do some of the advertisement, but you can do some of the advertisement yourself. Have you set up a website for that account too? Or
I have. Yeah, I've got my my business that I do my publishing through, which is my own small business. I've set up a sub page for the book as well as a sub page for the show. So I can direct audience and traffic back to that website as well.
Good. And what's the name of the website?
So it's willnata.com, WILLNATA.com. And it would be willnata.com/the show on that would get you to the actual show page.
All right. Not the easiest one to remember. Got to tell you that.
Yeah. Well, if you go to willnata.com, there's links to everything. So that's all you really need to remember.
So all you got to do is be able to remember that Will Nata.
That's right.
All righty. So good. So that's another thing, is you want to have a landing page. So you should have a place where people can say, hey, I really want to learn about this, but where do I find it? Because, you can find it if you're in YouTube, but maybe you want to, listen to an audio version so you can drive audience to whatever place they want to be. It's funny. This one I did this morning, the person that was the expert talking about her expertise goes, I feel like I know you because I see you every week on your show. And she says, and I listen to you in my car. So, you see people are finding you in different ways, and you get to be almost like family. So good. Sounds like you got that covered. So important. You have to do your due diligence to figure out how you're going to distribute this. And all this should be done before you go and launch anything. So that kind of takes me to step 5, branding and promotion, which in the old days kind of sometimes meant you had to hire somebody, but not anymore, not with AI. But you need cover art, you need catchy descriptions, you need to be able to share it through your own social media. So what have you done as far as branding and promotion?
Yeah, so love the AI aspect there because I've used ChatGPT to actually help me create a logo for the show. So it mirrors very similar to the logo that I have for the book on that. It's a microphone with the words, the show on that real big. So I do have a brand identity for the show already, kind of have established like a color scheme that I'll utilize to go along with that. And again, like as I was putting together the web page, I've got kind of a basic outline of like what is the show, and have used some AI tools to help me generate some copy. You know, I'm big on, as a writer, I like to write things and then have AI help me clean it up. You know, that's really the way that I use AI in like a description and thing. Like I'll write it the way I write, which tends to be a little bit wordier, and then it'll help me condense it down to, you know, this is what will, you know, really read well to an audience. So yeah, working on the branding side of things. I started working on an intro video. You know, I know that's something that like you have for this show, you know, your countdown. I built out something custom, kind of a combination of using AI to create images, and then used iMovie to actually build those into a intro clip for my own. Couldn't find a good tool, at least a good free tool that would let me actually build the video that I could use for commercial use. So, you know, kind of having to mix pieces there, and was able to find a place where I could get a song clip, like an AI generated song clip that I do have to credit it in my YouTube description, but I can at least use that as part of that intro outro.
Yeah. Well, I actually went one step further in that I now have an AI program. Of course, I got to pay for it, but you know, Euronurse does pretty good, so I've got some extra money. And so I bought this subscription to something called Suno, and it's an AI generating, and so I can now generate my own songs. I've actually started becoming a songwriter, so I write my own lyrics and then use it to create things. But it's I haven't done it for this show, but for my other shows, I've actually created my own intro video and audio, you know, catchy tunes about the show. So those are things that people, you know, they'll kind of, oh yeah, that's a nice intro to it, and they'll listen to it. So all those things are used to promote the show. Now, one of the things I'll tell you as a pro tip, you only get it here, is when you're going to create your YouTube, you need a thumbnail for the show. Mm-hmm. They always ask you, it'll create its own thumbnail for you, but you don't want to use what they use. Well, you can use ChatGPT to generate the prompt for the thumbnail. So what you do is you say, you know, you tell it to whatever your show is going to be about. Say I'm going to work a show about how to put on a podcast. I'll say, give me a prompt for how to create a podcast thumbnail, optimize for YouTube. That's a key. Tell it that you want to optimize for YouTube views, and it'll come up with, tell you what colors are the most vibrant, what little words should be in there to catch people's attentions. Even your titles are important. The way you title it. Ask ChatGPT to give you an optimized title choice. Say, give me 10 choices optimized for YouTube, because there's catchy tunes and things that, you know, people, you know, like to, it kind of grabs their attention to get, and that's what you're trying to do, is grab people's attention. So I've used a lot of that. That's amazing.
Asking AI to give you a prompt for AI, I have found, you know, that works really well, that it knows how to talk to itself better than you do. So using it as a way to kind of generate, you know, and then you can go to another program. If you don't like what you're getting from ChatGPT, you can pop it in Gemini or any of the many other programs out there.
Talk about Gemini. Gemini is really a good program for creating those thumbnails. But you do the prompt first in ChatGPT.
Yep.
And the combination is a killer.
Yeah, and I've even found with ChatGPT, giving them their own prompt back will get you a better image than if you just tried to come up with the image on your own. And I'll take the prompt that ChatGPT creates and put it into both ChatGPT and Gemini, and then kind of pick which one do I like better. I find Gemini little more realism in their pictures. Like they tend to be a little less cartoony, whereas the ChatGPT ones tend to be a little more animated, which, you know, depending on the style of what you're going for, you know, one or the other could be a better fit.
I found if I just asked Gemini, a lot of times it'll give me material that's actually like it's already branded material, like coming from some of those companies that put out pictures. So,
Yeah.
and then you'd have to pay, the royalties to get their brand off of it. So,
Right.
Unless it's created by AI, then you can utilize it. The other one we didn't mention is X also has their own AI engine called Grok. Now, I don't know if Grok is free because I do have a subscription to X. So I do get Grok through my subscription. But if you're in a broadcast, you can't broadcast on every media for nothing. So X is one of those. If you want to be on X, you're going to have to pay for it. So promoting yourself sometimes does cost a little, upfront cost.
Yeah, I had some fun. I don't know if it's still available, but Grok was free to create video clips for a period of time. It might still be. And I was able to tell it. So my sci-fi novel, Time Healers, I was able to tell it, that I wanted a picture. I took the picture of my book, kind of like a shot that I use in marketing pieces. And I said, I want a woman and describe the character to walk up, take the book, and then use a watch to travel to the future, because that's part of what happens in the book. It nailed it. I mean, it without me giving even too much description of the character, it looked right. And she goes and she takes the book out of the image and then puts it down and then goes on her watch, and then it shows, her like disappearing into the future. So, I mean, I created what I thought was a great marketing piece for my book without, hardly any effort going into it using that Grok video tool. Now, it's only maybe like a 5-second, 10-second clip.
Right,
so
limit the clips.
Able to go longer. But it was better than I could have created on my own for no cost.
Yeah. I've been looking at trying to create my own video clips because right now I use something I pay for, which actually AI goes out and searches through stock footage, and they own the stock footage. So when I create it, I can utilize it. And that's I spoke, I think, on this show about Pictory, which is the one I use. And actually the owner from that company invited me when I was traveling out to Seattle to go out to dinner with him and talk to him. And a couple of times he's actually had me on his show to discuss what things I'm looking for. And they're really proactive in that. They've used me now as a consultant because I've done a lot of stuff with their software. They're going to be coming up with video AI generated.
Okay.
So I'm really looking forward. So I'm looking forward to that. Because one of the drawbacks right now, and I try to follow all this AI stuff pretty closely because I enjoy playing with it, but video is way behind. It's just the images that you get. Yours was pretty good. I have to say, Grok did a good job.
It did a good job, but I hear, the video
sometimes
stuff.
It's like when I did early Mid-Journey and people had 6 fingers and
I was just going to say that
comes out, and the time to generate is ridiculous. It takes so much time to create a 5-second, clip, where I think that's going to be the next big step. You're going to see auto generation in short periods of time, because pictures used to take a long time, and it doesn't anymore. Once these models start training and this more advanced forms of AI are out there, it's going to really change the world. It's scary because if you're into any of these fields, I was a musician my whole life, and some of the stuff I'm doing now, just writing the lyrics and having it perform, your mom's like, who is that singing? It sounds like Michael Bublé. I said, it's not Michael. It's the computer that's actually singing it.
Yeah.
It's just scary. So watch out. You might be out of a job. All right. And now back to our slides. Our last step in this is launch and grow. So the whole key is to get that big launch date out there. Publish your first episode and be consistent. I always say the biggest mistake most people make is they say, all right, I want to start a podcast. They put a podcast out, then they get busy. So they don't get the next week's podcast done. So they wait another week or two. And it's not routine, even though this is a once a month podcast. And I did it as kind of fun, maybe people are going to be wanting to tune in, but found out they really do watch it. That's why it's continued. It's consistent every Wednesday, I should say, the first Wednesday of every month, there's a boot camp. Mm-hmm. You can count on it. It's going to be there, 7 p.m. Central Time. That's the consistency. So I urge you, when you launch, you should do the same thing, and use your social media to hype up the launch. This is a big deal. Hey, we're going live. When I started my most recent podcast, which is my news show, I do Monday through Friday, a weekday show at 9 a.m. Central Time. on healthcare news. Short, 5 minutes or less. I'll talk about a subject. But I launched about a month ahead of time with everything I could put in social media about, hey, it's coming. Get the people, built up for it. So when it launched, there was people there ready to watch.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great point. And yeah, like that's one of the things I've thought about is, to be consistent and knowing, that my schedule is erratic, is potentially even recording the first 2 or 3 episodes before I go live with the first one, so that if things get crazy, I will have the next one ready to go. And then I can always stay, 1 episode ahead of what my actual schedule is. So that's one thing I've thought about. As far as like getting the word out there, absolutely. I'm pretty big user of LinkedIn. So my plan is to, definitely start hyping it up there, similar to what I did with the publishing of my book. Was very similar. You need to build the energy behind it before you ever actually publish it, so that when the publication date comes, there's already people who are looking for it. One other thing that I did, and I have my book here next to me, is actually in the back of my book, I have a page about the show on that coming soon. Go. So I even teased it within the book. So I'm trying to start building that energy behind it, and definitely will do posting across the other channels that I'm on today to help build that energy. But I agree. I think consistency, I have to decide, what's the right time, day that I think people would want to tune into this, and then, build that plan out to where it's going to be, whether it's every week or every month or whatever it may be, getting consistent. And for me, I think the key is going to be getting ahead of it, having a number of episodes ready to go. And then, spend the time while I'm getting those episodes ready, hyping it so that when that first episode comes out, people are
that's
actually
a good plan to pre-record a group of episodes so that you've got something to fall back on. You don't want to ever be in a situation where you can't make a date. Like for instance, this one I sometimes do live, and we were planning to do it this Wednesday live, but I'm also traveling in on Wednesday. So there's, my plane gets delayed. Now the episode wasn't going to go. So it makes more sense. Pre-record it. There's no reason we can't pre-record this, and I'll have it preloaded. It'll fly like it should every, month. But consistency is important, because that's the only way you build a fan base. Now, if you can do it weekly, that's the best, at least once a week, because people kind of tend to look for it. Yeah. Even better is daily, but unless you're like me, retired, and you got enough time to do that, that's a lot of work, because people don't realize how much energy goes into, even a 5-minute episode. Those weekly 5-minute episodes, probably each episode is at least an hour's worth of prep work.
Yeah. I mean, what I've seen just from building out, the plan for each of my episodes, like there's going to be hours of work that go into each one prior to recording it, then the actual recording it, if there's any editing that I need to do. And then of course, advertising. It's definitely not going to be able to do daily at this point. Weekly is probably going to be taxing on my schedule. But I agree. I think from the standpoint of building an audience, I always try to think about the things that that I take in. And if you think about even like a TV series, they were always weekly. Nowadays with Netflix, everything is all at once. And that's what people have gotten used to. It's like, if I like something, I want to be able to see all of it at one time. Obviously, that's not going to be realistic until you build, a collection.
Your catalog builds out.
Yeah,
somebody when they find out there's 10 episodes of your show, then they watch all those. You're right.
Exactly. And in the meantime, building, I think, a weekly audience is probably the best way to get people.
That's the way I thought of it. Is same time, same bad time, same bad station. That was when I was growing up. Batman was, you look forward to it once a week, and that's how I built my show. And it's been very successful with the weekly audience kind of going in. At the daily one, I kind of modeled that more after Fox News. Mm-hmm. If you ever watched the show, I kind of looked at how some of their scenery is set. It's another good idea is look how other people are doing their shows. Go and watch other podcasts, see how they do their shows. There's nothing wrong with ripping somebody off, because I'm sure somebody's out there probably ripping me off too. But
imitation is the best form of flattery, right?
That's right. So if you're successful, expect people to kind of follow your tail. But it's exciting. I look forward to seeing your podcast. So keep me in the loop on when it comes out. Otherwise, We'll talk to you hopefully maybe next month and have an update on where you're at on that. But
sounds
good. So if anybody out there wants to start a podcast, I invite you to do it. we're not shy about having competition. It's all good. You know, somebody once said everybody's got a podcast. Well, that's really not true. There's a lot of podcasts out there, but
It's definitely
high quality, good stuff out there to help your, you know, whatever you're doing. That's not out there.
No, and I will say, as an aspiring podcaster, this show that you've put together has been fantastic, because everything from getting my lighting right, my hair and makeup, which no makeup, but definitely hair, having the right camera, having the right microphone, the right program, it's helped me. I've kind of taken it step by step from, you know, hey, my dad does this and it looks like fun, to I think I could actually do this. You know, this show has helped me every step of the way. So I encourage anyone, you know, talking about having a catalog. If you're interested in starting a podcast and you're watching this episode, go back to the beginning. Watch each episode in the series, and you're going to learn something with every one that you'll go, okay, I need to do that now. This camera here, you know, the difference between that camera and another one. You can see I've got a green screen background going today. You know, I like my office background, but I don't know that it's quite right for a podcast. You know, I use it for my work calls because I think it creates a little bit of a fun atmosphere, but it's not what I thought was the right background for a podcast. So I found this more generic office with a green screen. And, you know, thanks to the episode that we did a few weeks back or a few months back.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I knew exactly how to set it up, make it work. I didn't wear a green shirt today, so I not disappeared into my background. But I think that, you know, for somebody who's aspiring, take the episodes one by one, incorporate the pieces that you learn from each of them. And by this episode, you'll be in the same spot that I am, where you're going, okay, I'm ready to do
let's
this.
do it. Time to do it. Good. All right, Bill, we'll have a great rest of your day, and we'll hopefully see you next month. And
sounds good.
We'll see you on the internet soon.
All right. Here's hoping.
All right.